One alternative, but nevertheless effective way of saving money in banks is the so-called time deposit. It's basically the concept of you depositing money which you cannot withdraw until it reaches maturity. So to explain this further, we have with us here Marvin Germo. He's a registered financial planner. Good morning, Marvin.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's my pleasure.
So we're going to talk about time deposit this morning.
Okay.
I think it's one of the most traditional, oldest investment strategies out there when people put their money in time deposit.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Correct? So what are the advantages of putting your money in time deposit?
All right. Let me just bring you to principles first.
Okay.
Number one, in terms of investing and putting your money in, it's always the higher the risk, the higher the reward. Mm-hmm. The lower the risk, the lower the reward that you will get.
Okay.
When you look at it from that angle, time deposits are in the lower end of that spectrum, meaning it doesn't have as much risk. Mm-hmm. You put in 100,000, you get 100,000, but with a small kicker interest rate that you can get from it. One of the advantages that you will have for time deposit is, number one, I guess, it will give you a bigger interest rate than savings accounts and current accounts. It's a good way for you to park your money that you will need over the short term. Just for short term needs and goals. Because if you leave it, if you have a certain goal to invest for the very long term, you lose out naman to inflation. So time deposit is something that's good for the short term, something that you will want to park your money for a month, 3 months, 6 months, and then if you need it, you can easily access it.
Oh, okay. But what would you advise for people to put in their money in a longer period of time or a shorter period of time? How can they take full advantage of a time deposit?
Number one, they build their emergency fund. A time deposit is very good for your emergency fund because an emergency fund is something, if you have an emergency, you have something to pull it out for. So in terms of duration, I'd go for the longer one because it would give you a higher interest rate than the one that's 30 days or 60 days. But it doesn't matter because if you can always withdraw your time deposit regardless of the duration that you would have. What's going to happen lang if you withdraw it prematurely, the yield that you will get will be prorated, but you still get your full amount that you placed in there.
Who are the people that you think should be putting their money in time deposit? What kind of people you think they can start as early as their teens or in high school, college, or as soon as they start working?
Okay. Number one, I think it's for everyone, but it's something where you park items that you want to touch for the short term. But if you're older also, it's a good way for you to put your money if you don't want to have any volatility. Because we understand if you're a retiree, you don't want to see your money drop because it's in a mutual fund or the stock market. I guess it's really, the more conservative you are, the more money you park in time deposits, the more aggressive you are. If you're younger, the lesser money you should put in time deposits. Like for me, I put a very small amount for time deposits. It's really for my contingency or emergency purposes. The rest, I invest because it's under the concept that a lot of people put their money there, leave it for the long term, but if it's left for 10, 20 years, it really doesn't earn much. So it's for someone who's relatively older that doesn't want to doesn't want to go through the volatility of the markets.
Oh, okay. So since you're talking about investing in the stock market as well, so time deposit is more of a conservative way of putting away money.
Yes.
And making a little bit out of it, and it's a slower way of accumulating a little bit of interest.
And I guess the key word there is accessibility, that when you need the money, you can have it. You have already the notion that if I put this much, I can expect this much also if I need it. The difference between investing in other avenues, you're not sure how much it will be 6 months, a year, or 2 years from now.
Right.
For time deposit, you have an emergency, your child needs to... a good example is this. If I have a child and then he's going to go to school a year from now, June, I would not put that money in the stock market. Why? Because I'm not sure how big or how low the money will be. So I put it in savings accounts or time deposits because it will still beat the regular current and savings account. But when I need it in June, when I need the money, it's there. Or another example, you're getting married. Do not put your wedding fund into
stock market.
Into the stock market,
because
especially
you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, or probably the money that you'll have to buy a gown might not be there anymore. You just have to slash your money. But if it's in a time deposit, you need it 4 months from now, you need it 6 months from now. you'll be able to get it quickly. You'll be able to get the same amount that you placed in there.
True. Now, I've noticed in some banks, when you apply for a time deposit, they also offer another kind of similar to time deposit, but it's
Okay.
with this. It's connected to your savings
Okay.
account, where they also give you, I guess, your money grows.
Okay.
If you leave your money in that saving accounts untouched, your money grows by a certain percent
Yeah.
higher than
Than time deposit, yeah.
So let's talk about that
Okay.
option.
Personally, that's a good way for you. You can actually tier it. What I always tell my clients is that you segment your money in tiers. What does that mean? So, for example, you have, say, an emergency fund that we always tell people to put 6 months worth of your operational expenses. Meaning, if you're spending 100,000 per month, put away 600,000 in your emergency fund, so that, for example, you lose work, you get fired from your job, you can live normally for 6 months. So what do? I wouldn't put everything. I wouldn't put the whole 600,000 in a savings account, because I would not need that money quickly naman if there's no emergency that would happen. What I would do, I could segment it. 200,000 I'd put in a savings account, 200,000 I'd put in a time deposit, then 200,000, that's what I put into something that gives me a higher yield, because I'm thinking that if no emergencies would happen, chances are I won't ever use it. And it fits people who have a stable job. If you have a stable job, might as well put it into something that you won't really touch it. Because there's a notion that if I won't touch it, if there's a sale in the mall, if there's safeguards for you not to touch that investment,
You won't
or
spend.
you won't spend it. But
Right.
if it's so easy to withdraw,
Right.
you see a sale, you see something you want to buy, it's easy to take it out. And some time deposits now, you can easily transfer it online back to your ATM account, and then you can access it completely. But I agree with what you said. That type of savings will safeguard you if you're a spender, or if you don't have the discipline. It's a good mechanical way to prevent you from using your money.
So basically, check with your bank what other options
Yes,
you have,
yes,
because
yes.
you have the time deposit, you have that savings account option, which is similar to time deposit. I remember hearing about that from one of the banks. And then also, just briefly, for those people who you have that extra and then wanna maybe invest in the stock market. What's the stock market looking? Because you're a financial planner.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we were talking about this earlier. What's the stock market looking like these days?
What I like about it, what's different about the stock market now is our economy is still, a lot of foreign funds are looking at the Philippines right now because our economy is good.
Right.
So what does it make us do? As Filipinos, it's time for us to see which companies are actually performing, which companies I think are growing. If our GDP is based on consumption,
Right.
meaning-
We just reported
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, consumption-based economy.
Well, it went down by 0.5%.
Yeah.
But it's expected to go up next
But it
year.
tells that a lot of Filipinos are still spending. So what do?
Right,
I know a lot of Filipinos are spending. I'll buy malls. I'll buy stocks that have businesses in malls. I'll buy stocks that have businesses in what people spend on, like fast food chains or restaurants, or products that are in direct relation to your spending. Because at the end of the day, that consumption, it's also driven by OFW sending their money here. There's more money moving around. Filipinos spend. So while they're spending, the economy grows. If I'm a Filipino, I want to be part of that. I'll invest in the market.
Right.
And that's the difference. You put money that's above and beyond what you don't want to touch in the market naman as a whole. Time deposits, when you put your money in time deposits, something that you think you may touch it, but when you put money that you don't plan to touch, that's when you put it in the market or other funds that give you higher yields.
Right. The risk is higher, but the profit
Yes.
may be bigger in the stock market.
And that's
Right.
where diversification comes in, that you don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Right. You split it up,
Yep,
right?
based on how risky you want to be. So if you're very aggressive, put a certain amount in stocks. If you're a bit conservative, then put more in those fixed income.
Time deposit and saving.
But if you're conservative, put in time deposit, but still put a little in the market. So you have something that you have a little bit of action, you have a little
Right.
bit of your money working for you.
Right. Well, hopefully we'll have another talk about this later, some other day.
Yeah.
Thanks again for coming in today, Marvin.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a good time.
Thank you. And that was financial planner Marvin Germo.